Hey everyone, this is the VN Talks. I'm Tala.
I'm Cata.
And I'm Marga.
Today we have a very special episode related to Pride Month because it's Pride Month, it's June. We're going to talk more about, the LGBTQ community and all the misconceptions and, the kind of controversy that is around it and, just talk overall about it.
Yeah, so because we didn't want to be the ones to carry this episode today, we have brought a special guest with us, who's Donovan. He comes to class with us and we're going to let him introduce himself. But he's a great friend of ours and he knows a lot more than we do. And he can lead this conversation much better than we can. So yeah, this is Donovan and he's going to be here with us today. So
introduce yourself.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Hi. As Margarita said, my name is Donovan. I also go by Don, and I'm from Colorado, USA. But I'm currently studying with Tala, Cata, and Marga here at IE University, studying BIR. And I'm gonna be talking to you guys a little bit more about Pride Month, the LGBTQIA+ community, and I'm excited. Thank you guys so much for having me today.
We're so happy to have you here. You're like our first guest. And before this starts, I just want to give a little FYI to people. My audio can be really shitty today because they're like fixing something in my house. So like, I'm really sorry about that. And like, while we carry our conversation, when is Pride Month? Like what day is Pride in like your respective cities that you are? Like, do you have it?
So Pride Month is in the United States is also in June. So it's like at the exact same time as it is happening currently, like here in Madrid, for example. And I won't lie, I know that there's a specific day. I want to say that the Pride Parade is going to be this Saturday, but I might be wrong, as there's it really does vary from city to city across the globe when the actual Pride Parade takes place during the month of June. And I'm not too familiar if it's like one consistent day in Denver or if they happen to change it from time to time. But my big confession is I've actually never been to a Pride Parade before in my entire life. So in that field, I haven't been keeping myself updated, and I've been out here in Spain, so I assumed I wouldn't even be able to make Denver Pride. But I know at least in Madrid that it's happening this Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, the 26th.
So nice.
Yeah, the 26th, I think we have celebrations here already in Madrid. But I think it's normally like the last Wednesday of June that we celebrated in Madrid. So then I'm thinking maybe the actual big celebration will be like on Saturday, July the 3rd. And that's when we'll have the big parade. But yeah, I'm not sure either, but it's true that it's really big. Pride is really big here in Madrid. I don't know how big it is in Denver. But I mean, I wish you could stay to see it this time, maybe next year. But yeah.
No, I mean, it's a bit different. Like out here in Madrid, Madrid is one of the gay capitals of the world, alongside San Francisco, West Hollywood, various other cities across the globe, that are like openly known to be, very welcoming to the LGBTQ+ community. So it's not quite like that. Like Denver is a relatively progressive city, don't get me wrong, but it is super small compared to Madrid. You can't even compare it. So Denver Pride is a thing and it happens, but it has far less engagement than something that's happening here in Madrid or say West Hollywood, any of those like San Francisco, again, like gay capitals of the world. It doesn't quite compare because there's not as many folks to be participating, but it's still a big deal and gains a lot of engagement, at least for the size of the city. Lots of people do go.
Yeah. What about you girls?
I know here in Paris it's gonna be also this Saturday. But in Colombia, every single year, I just know this because it's my sister's birthday is the 1st of July, which is really curious because Pride Month is June and we have it like in July. But
happens a lot.
Yeah, like I've seen I haven't been able to attend one. I really want to. I think this would be so fun. But some of my best friends attended 2 years ago because last year there was none. And they I remember like the signs, they were so cute. And like I just remember like a grandparent had like a sign. He was like, "You can hug me, like I'll be your grandparent now," or something. Like we all know, like we all need like that, like family, especially because like Colombia, it's very progressive in like a lot of things, which I think no one would really expect from Colombia. But it's also like I think 90% Catholic, so like there's also like that like difference. So yeah, What about you, Tala?
We don't have really much like celebrations on Pride because it's kind of hidden, unfortunately. It's kind of a shame and a controversy, the LGBT community. And I want to future talk, like I want to talk about this further on, but it is also
Future
hard
episodes.
for future episodes. I remember because I have a gay friend of mine who's like, and I told him about this episode. And I told him like, oh, like we're gonna do about this, like you should tune in, blah blah blah. And he was like, yeah, but you should so like mention like Arab kids and like their struggles with coming out as gay and like you know the LGBT community like of Arabs, you know, because it is hard and it is like not celebrated. It is not, and that's not because of mainly like Arab culture or like you know the Orientalist approach of you know Arabs. It's more of like each culture has this like tendency of like controversy and shame, you know, in all religions, you know, not just like Islam or Christianity, like you know overall. So it
Yeah.
just it goes back to so many things. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a Pride celebration, unfortunately. But there's like a lot of NGOs and organizations that celebrates, you know, closely together. There's literally an organization that tends to like give counseling for gay kids and like give them homes and like give them funds if they you know get disowned or whatever. And they're called Rainbow Street. And I remember the school that I was in is called Rainbow Street, so it's kind of like it's cool. But yeah,
That's so
unfortunately,
nice.
hopefully, like I hope for the future, but yeah, I don't think it's looking any
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, like on that note, like I have a question for both like Tala and Dawn. Like, were you like you've like expressed to us that you don't come from like big like pride full cities, we could say. Was it like a big like culture shock coming to like Europe, like seeing like literally districts, like for example, like Chueca here in Paris is Le Marais, like just like literally dedicated to like people that are like on the LGBTQ plus, just like literally living their best lives, like literally. I don't know about you, but Trek I think is one of the best districts in Madrid. It's so much
Yeah,
fun. Here, Le
Chueca,
Marais,
yeah.
I think I go to Le Marais every single day. What like was it a big culture shock or did you expect it? Was it like something that like you like I don't know.
Don, you speak. You're the guest
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I wouldn't say it was necessarily a culture shock by any means. I knew like all along that Madrid was one of these cities that has a lot of influence in the gay community and has a very prevalent, you know, community here already. So I came here expecting it. You know, again, Denver, it's just you can't even compare it because Denver it's so much smaller. It's the capital city of Colorado, sure, but it is just so much smaller than Madrid is. So like the population of any demographic is going to be smaller than as it appears in Madrid because Madrid is so big. But it's interesting because you know I might be from outside of Denver, so like I'm from like a very small town, you know, and so it was crazy in a sense coming to a place like Chueca, which has like probably a population larger than my own town alone in just this one barrio. And like walking down the street, it's kind of cool to feel, you know, as if you're just surrounded by people from the same community and not be that odd one out, you know. Like if I'm walking down the street in a different barrio like Salamanca or something like that, holding a hand with you know, my boyfriend or something like that, I think that people would not, at least most, would not really care, but there might be more looks. Whereas in Chueca, it's like everyone is just kind of like holding hands. There's people making out on the side of the street. Like it does, you don't even think about it because it really is like a neighborhood dedicated to this very welcoming field for the gay community. So in that sense, it was new and it was something I hadn't experienced before, but it wasn't again necessarily a surprise because I went into it knowing that I was going to a city that was super welcoming. As fact, that was top of my list when I was going to university and applying to university was that I was going to be going to a campus that was accepting in a city or town that was accepting as well. And Madrid, of course, check out that list. You know, it's accepting and there's many other people here to be in a supportive community. So I don't know if that answers it all right for you, but that's kind of my 2 cents.
It does.
At least for me, I feel like I wouldn't say it would be necessarily a culture shock because I feel like people don't understand this, but like especially the Middle East, we're really like from you know globalization, we're really westernized in a way. Like we know so much about the West, you know, in terms of everything, like TV shows, language, like culture, literally everything. So you would see online and you would see on social media all of these things, and it wouldn't really be a shock. And I remember, when in 2015, when Obama legalized gay marriage, there was this huge debate between Ammanis on Facebook, and they're all like, people who don't support it, people who do support it. I'm like, y'all know, like, you're not in the US. This doesn't affect you whatsoever. Why are you debating on it? And I feel like since then it kind of, I started realizing, like, I started educating myself more on the topic, and I had multiple friends. And so, like, it just all came, I started educating myself on it. So I don't think it would be necessarily a culture shock. I feel like I always knew about it, from in terms of like westernized globalization or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, and I think what you were saying now about educating yourself is really important when it comes to the LGBTQ plus
Exactly.
community, especially when it comes to us, though, as we are not part of it. We are supposed to educate ourselves first. We should listen first and then talk and then see what we can learn before we dare to say anything, because we're not affected and we're really privileged at the end of the day. To be in the position that we are, and we will never feel what people do in the LGBTQ plus community. And in that sense, I wanted to like bring up the topic of like representation and ask Dawn how it feels, especially now, because I think it's like increasingly being more present every day, like seeing I don't know, LGBTQ plus couples on TV shows or anything like that, seeing pride parades all around the world, how it feels and how has it felt that everything has been changing since the beginning, and or in the recent years, just how things have evolved. How does it feel, and how does like representation kind of impact you and impact the way that you feel? Because at the end of the day, still coming out and still being part of the community is a big thing and something a lot of people are scared of saying. So having that representation, having people that openly talk about their struggles and say, I am part of the community, must be a thing that helps a lot and kind of may have changed a lot, like your view of yourself in the community as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think that like when it comes to representation, say in pop media, as of right now, TV shows, movies, it's a hit or a miss. Like generally speaking, what we want, I think as a community, of course, I'm not trying to speak on behalf of every single person from the LGBTQIA plus community, but is the normalization of, gender identity and sexual identity. And some TV shows and movies do a great job of that, and others do a terrible job, and it's just the token gay character. So
Give us an
you look at
example.
movies, for example,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, think of like Mean Girls, for example, made quote unquote different time, early 2000s, for example. Not that long ago though, and sure that it's funny, but like Darren is a funny character, and I love Mean Girls just as much as the next person. But in another sense, like how much work is the character Darren doing to progress the voice of the gay community? Arguably not so much, because he's a character made of stereotypes. It could even create further wedges. So, in that sense, like if we're being put on the screen just to be like a pity, just to be a laughing stock, like for me, it's kind of like, that's fine from time to time. Like we can make
Like we're
humor
normal
out of things.
people.
Like I exactly, but like I love it being when it's just kind of like it's there, but it doesn't need to be even necessarily a topic of discussion, because I feel like with gay people, it's like we're just like anyone else, like our relationship is just like anyone other's relationship. You don't need to make it like glorified on the screen of like, but this is two men, or this is two women, or this is someone who's transgender and like cisgendered in a relationship and like glorified as this crazy thing, where like my conceptualization is more so like, I mean, it's a relationship. So you can just make the gay relationship on the screen and that not be like this massive part of the plot, if that makes sense. But again, like if it's doing, I think in general, normalizing it, and the more that we do put it on media, the more it does become normalized and less stigmatized. And so again, I do say like it really depends on the light in which you do it. Some people would argue that any representation is good representation, maybe others wouldn't. And like I said, my personal opinion is it just depends on how it's shown. But it's super cool to think that in just the past 20 years alone, think about like the year 2000 versus, you know, now 2021, how much progress we've made in regard to like pride parades becoming that much
for
more
sure.
normalized, that much more support,
Yeah.
the normalization of gay and non-cisgendered characters and asexual characters and everyone from that whole gender identity and sexual identity spectrum starting to more and more be prevalent on the TV screen and in pop culture and in politics. It's pretty cool. And it's really
Yeah.
cool to see that we've made so much progress in such a short amount of time. I mean, like Tala said, I mean, only 6 years ago was gay marriage legalized in my home country of the US. That's 6 years. That's it. Like,
And
That's
for
crazy.
more of my life, it's been illegal, and it has been for more of my life, it's been illegal than it has been legal, which is bizarre
Yeah.
to think about.
I have a question though. What would you say, like, in terms of like representation, what would you say was the movie that really like was important to you, that showed great, you know, LGBTQ representation? Like, what do you think? Do you have a movie that you related to, or that you were thankful it was made, or do you think it's not there yet? It wasn't there, or it's like, it doesn't have to be so special. Like, it could have just been like a movie that was just good representation.
Well, I remember, like, okay, I'll be honest with the audience. Like, I am not a very big movie or TV watcher at all. It's like, I don't watch many, okay? Like, I remember people to this very day, like, from the gay community are like, you've never seen Love, Simon? Like, how dare you? And I'm like, I'm
Or
sorry.
Call Me By Your
I don't
Name.
watch.
How dare
Yeah,
you not
exactly.
see Love, Simon?
Same boat.
I've seen Call Me By Your Name. I have seen Call Me By Your Name.
Who hasn't,
but like Love,
though?
Simon, for example, I have. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. But I would say like the one that like strikes like something to me in one sense, Glee was like a progressive show and a horrible show at the same time. I've been rewatching episodes here and there like recently, and like the things that they say would not fly in today's world. I don't think, like, but there's other parts of it that did bring up some very important, you know, things. And I think the only reason that it sticks true to me is because I was watching Glee, and Glee was finishing being made as I was coming out around the age of 12. And so I was able to, like, I just remember like sympathizing directly with this TV show I happened to be watching as a young 12-year-old, and seeing Blaine and stuff like that on the screen was something really cool to me. Even if now looking back on it with more mature eyes, I'm kind of like, well, this is kind of fetishizing the gay community, like low key. But even then, like, at least this is one of the first shows that had like an openly gay couple and was talking about gay sex even, and like starting to bit by bit normalize it. And so I think in another sense that they made mistakes in many areas of controversy, not just in regard to the LGBT community, but people with disability, with Artie. Like, the show messed up. They made some mistakes, to say the least. But it also, I can respect them in the sense of being, in one sense, a pioneer of starting to normalize that. And I respect that. And it helped me, I think, a lot as a young child watching it, even if it was not always necessarily the best image, if that makes sense. But I think they did a very good job for when the time was.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask a question about that, because like now, like obviously there's been a big conversation over I forgot, Darren Criss playing like so many like gay characters while he's being a straight man. So like I've seen like a lot of like points of view, like both like in favor, both like against him, because now he publicly, I think a year ago, said that he will never again take any other gay characters. Like, what do you think on the spectrum? Because like personally, I think like if he was not him, like probably someone in the gay community could have taken the character of Blaine. But also we have to go back to 2010 when gay marriage was not legalized. So probably like people would have come out for him, like things could have gone really horribly for like a gay man. But obviously now we talk about like the show carried on for like more years than that, and new shows are coming out, and he kept doing those characters, gay characters. What do you think about like straight people taking on like gay roles?
I mean, that's a great question. I guess I should preface, like, everything that I'm saying, I should have said this earlier. Like, if there are people from the, you know, LGBTQIA plus community that disagree with things that I'm saying, like, more power to you. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So I would start by saying that, you know, your interpretation is different from everyone, and I'm not here to judge that. I think it's hard, and I think it depends on your perspective. Like, if you're looking at it from an acting perspective, it's very admirable that Darren Criss, who's someone who is not gay and thus has not had the experiences, you know, of like true, like genuine at your heart romantic attraction to the same sex, the fact that he's able to portray a character like Blaine so well, you could say is admirable. Like, you know, if he's the best actor for it, he deserves the role. And like, I guess in one sense I understand that, but in another, I look at it as like, there are people out here who are gay and stuff like that, and for a long time up until recently, like, we're marginalized, we're like maybe more likely to not receive a role as opposed to potentially someone who is straight, like that sort of a thing. That it's like, now that we're in today's world, why not give those roles to those people who are directly being infected or directly being impacted by what's going to be discussed by that character, if that makes sense. So I guess my interpretation again is it's kind of twofold. If you look at it with the perspective of the best actor deserves the role, then I completely understand that. But in another sense, I understand why people would be upset that they're not giving that opportunity to someone who is gay, who has walked the walk, who feels that emotion, who has experienced it firsthand, as opposed to another straight white man. You know, like, that's a lot of controversy, is like, why do we keep handing roles to these, you know, straight cisgendered white men as opposed to people who have actually like experienced it from neglected demographics? Like, give those roles to the neglected demographics. And I also entirely understand that perspective as well.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Mhm.
I also want to move on the topic to because you mentioned that you were watching Glee when you were, you know, starting to come out, and I want to kind of move on to like coming out. It pisses me off because like, when is coming out ever going to like end? Like, why do gay people only have to come out? Like, why do not straight people come out? Like, it's so stupid to me.
Like in
Like,
Love Simon.
if my child comes out to me, I would slap her. I was like, don't come out to me.
You say that.
It's normal.
You say
Like,
that.
no, like, you know what I mean. Obviously, I would be supportive, but like, I mean, I just want to normalize
like,
it. Like, it's just normalization. That's the deal. Like, it's not like, obviously, like, I'm not gonna say slap her. I'm not gonna disown her, but like, no, but like,
Tala,
what I
you
mean
get
by
canceled
slapping,
every episode.
Literally.
You just cancel yourself.
guys, just listen to me, okay? No, what I mean by that is just like, I don't want her to feel like she has the need to like tell me that she's gay. You know, I feel like it should be normal. Like, what everyone expects everyone to be straight, you know? That's why. So what do you think of that? Like, first of all, like, what do you think of that? And like, you know, if you're comfortable with it, you know, you can tell what it felt like, you know, your story, and yeah, like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Of course,
We just
I can totally answer that for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, this is another thing that I think is looked at as very
for
different
everyone.
amongst
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, including different for everyone in the gay community. I think, to answer your question in very simple like in a very simple way, people have to come out from the LGBTQ plus community because of the fact that it's because of the world that we live in. As of right now, it's kind of expected that like you will, if you are born like biologically a female, that you will stay a female, biologically a male, then you are a male. You know, boys like girls like boys, bada bing, bada boom. That's kind of the end of story. And that's more normal. And it makes sense in one sense because most people are cisgendered and most people are straight, you know? So in one sense, it's you know what, thousands of years now of just human history of us kind of like developing this norm of gender identity and gender roles and sexual identity and that sort of a thing, and it always kind of being pre-assumed of just, you know, your biology defines defines who you are as a gender. Yeah, and like your biology also defines who you will find sexually attractive. And so in one sense, I think it's just, again, like, we're a minority, so we're disadvantaged in that sense. So we have to kind of make that extra like jump, that extra thing of coming out, to disassociate ourselves from what the preconceived notion is about us, if that makes sense. I think that like maybe we'll become to a place in a world where you don't have to, and everyone lives, you know, singing Kumbaya, and everyone's like, I don't care what you are, and if you want to be called, you know, a napkin, I'll call you a napkin, and if you kiss, you know, like boys or girls or whoever, anyone in between on that gender spectrum, like that, we don't care. I hate to be negative, but I don't think that that's going to happen, at least in our lifetime. You know, think like, I don't feel like we've certainly made progress.
Yeah,
but I don't think that we're going to get into a place, and it's going to be a while, because we still have culture in society that's highly patriarchal. Yes. We still have gender roles and taboo about sexual expression and sexual liberation. And so like, before we resolve all of these other issues that are not always directly associated with the LGBTQ plus community, but with women and men and, you know, again, gender roles, like, until we resolve those which impact everyone's lives, it's going to be difficult to get to a place where we don't have to necessarily come out. But also, I think coming out is something that is so dependent. Again, I keep saying this, on the individual. I know many people from my community that have never come out. They just one day showed up at home and said, "Mom, this is my partner here,"
Really?
and sat down.
I
Like
love
it doesn't
that.
need to be a
I love
conversation. This is my
that.
partner,
Yeah,
or
I
this is my
love that.
girlfriend. This is my boyfriend. That sort of a thing. But I think the other thing that a lot of people, like, the concept of coming out has become super normalized as well, because it's coming from a place of like wanting support. Like, how else can I expect as a 12-year-old for my mom to like support me in these struggles that I'm kind of like facing internally, without blatantly telling her, "Mom, I'm gay"? Because when I'm 12 years old, I'm not going to bring home a boyfriend and just say, "Mom, this is my boyfriend," and we sit down for dinner, and have a tenderloin.
So just like
Like,
communication and talking about it. Like that's
exactly
that's why it's important, mainly. Just
and
like
that's why I
talking
think
about
it's
your
different for
feelings.
everyone. It's different for everyone depending on what you need. If you're more adult,
Yeah.
if you're on your own, it might be easier to swing the whole like, this is not a big part of my life. I just am going to bring my boyfriend over to dinner and we're going to have dinner with my family, and that's the end of the story. Whereas with other people, it's a need to tell because it's something you're keeping inside. Imagine being transgender and feeling trapped as if you're living this fake life for your entire life. Like, I'm sure the want to tell the people around you of like, this is not me, and I'm going to start going by different pronouns, and I'm going to start looking a little bit different, and I need your unconditional love and support. Like, that makes logistical sense why someone would want to have that coming out experience.
It makes.
And for me, when I was super young, I needed that support from my mom. I was a child. I needed the support from my family to keep understanding who I was as a person. It was not so easy. It's just like, it is what it is. So,
Did you feel like that kind of those two feelings of being at the same time having that need of getting it out, but on the other hand feeling like scared? And because I mean, at the end of the day, coming out, it feels like you're exposed to, because you're not what is the normality to people, what is normalizing this gender patriarchal society. So suddenly when you're like out of that rule, you feel exposed. It's like you're not what's considered normal anymore, and of course you feel so exposed. So I'm sure you had, like, maybe I'm wrong, but that feeling of, I want to like be myself and show who I am, but on the other hand I'm scared of what others will say or what things can happen, because we even see hate crimes towards the community, and it's terrifying to see that people, just because they express who they are and who they love, they just they get hit just because of that. So it must be really scary to feel exposed, even though at the same time you really want to be yourself.
Dude, there's nothing like it. Like, I swear there's nothing like it. And I've heard other people, of course everyone's coming out experience is very different, but I've heard of many people who had similar experiences as mine, and I am very fortunate. Like, when it comes to my life, I've been super privileged in regard to like where I am. My family was very supporting of me. So that's great. But I remember growing up, mother's intuition, my mom always knew, like my family always knew, like it was no secret in the sense they were more so just waiting on me to figure it out, but they already had. And I remember like, I grew up with my mom always planting seeds of like, it's okay if you're gay, Dewey. Like, I remember being like, my family calls me Dewey, that's why I say that. Like, I remember growing up and being a little kid, and my mom would like casually bring up a conversation and be like, whoever you are, whoever you love, like, I'll always love you and I'll always support you. And I'd be like 5, and to me, I was just like, okay, like, cool, mom, like, thank you. But now looking back, I'm like, she was planting seeds to show that she was supporting me, and I started to grow and develop and try to understand things. Like, she was telling me that before I even understood what exactly it meant, out of pure love of like, just in case, And despite that, and despite it always being an open conversation with my mom, I was petrified to come out to my mom. I knew she was going to support me. I knew that she was going to love me, but it was like getting the words of "I'm gay" up to my mom. I couldn't do it. I remember like when I came out, my mom just knew that there was something wrong, and it was because I'm super close with my mom. I tell her everything. And again, I was 12. I was in 7th grade. And so I was super terrified to like get it out, but I wanted to tell her so she could tell I was like hiding something. She was like, "Dewey, what's wrong? Like, we need to talk." Brought me over to the couch. I was like, oh God, like, I do not want to talk about this right now at all. And sure enough, she ended up like kind of coaxing it out of me. And at one point she was like, just tell me, like, what do you need to tell me? What are you hiding from me? And I broke down sobbing. I could not even speak. I cried so hard because, and again, I knew she was going to support me, but I don't even know how to express it. And she ended up being like, do you want me to guess? And I was like, like through my tears. And she's like, Dewey, are you gay? Sure enough, she was right. Like, again, mother's intuition. But and it was fine. But there's nothing like it. Like getting out, like Margarita
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
like
yeah. It's
pulling
not
yourself
only,
physically, even if you know your most inner circle is going to be supportive, going from this place to out and proud in a place where you are quite vulnerable and stuff like that, especially depending like the like on where you are in the LGBTQ community, like that can be super scary to be out because you can feel
Yeah.
unsafe in your own household, in your own community, in your own school, in your own place of work. Like it's like very I don't even know how to describe it again. Like it's just this huge shift in your life that
Yeah, it
is very
is.
scary but very liberating at the same time.
Yeah.
I remember when one of my best friends, she came out to me. We were in a quinceañera party, of course. And like for the past like days, like weeks, like she had been really like weird around. I was going through a lot of shit when I was 15, and she was also. And I remember like we were like at the party, and I just told her like, is that you have not been there for me lately, and because I was really pissed at her. And then she like I walked out because like there was a garden, and she came back. She came like running. I was like, got the like. It's not like I want to be there for you, but like there's something. Like, I was like, what's something? Tell me, like, come straight at me, like tell me, like I'm going through a lot of shit and I need my best friend and you're not there for me. And she just looked at me and she's like, I have to tell you something. I was like, well, tell me. And she like started crying, and I was like, girlie, what's wrong? Like, of course I had knew for like a long time. Like I already had like my hints and guesses, but like I was like, it was never a conversation that we had because like I didn't want to make her uncomfortable. Like maybe she was not ready to have that conversation yet. And like then like well like she was like trying to tell me, and she was like, well, like this thing. I was like, well, like what the fuck are you saying? Because I didn't want to guess and then like having it wrong. But like what if I say something like girlie, like are you bi or like are you gay? And like then she's being like, no, like that's not. So like then like she told me, and like it was really sweet. And like of course like in Colombia like there's a big community. It's growing everlasting. And like Colombia, like it's one of the only 5 countries in Latin America that has a equal marriage. And Colombia also has also like gay couples can adopt kids. But it's of course it's really hard. And like it hasn't been hard for her. Like she has been like really supported and stuff. But I think what I've done, because I felt like that need to like always like, and I still do, like to always be supportive to her, because I know it's gonna be hard. And she has been very blessed, but she has also had like really rough patches. Whenever I see something that has like pride on it, I just become like that mom, and it just buy like everything. I really don't care. Like, does she need it? No. Does she want it? Absolutely not. But I'm gonna give her like literally. I was just in Disneyland last week and I saw like Pride collection. I was like, here goes all my money, and I'm gonna take it back to her. She's gonna be like, why? I'm be like, do you like it? But it's just complicated. And like I remember like, but I think with time, like in our timeline, like it's gonna start, like I think people are just gonna be like coming out if they have this need, because they know like their surroundings are gonna like kind of force it into them. Like I know in Colombia it's gonna keep happening, because like you can just like, people are just gonna assume, and like people are just gonna be expecting like, why are you not bringing that girl home? Why are you not bringing that guy home? And like stuff. So I don't know. Like I think that's my 2 cents on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it depends. Like again, from every person, I think we're moving to a place where some people it's obsolete in their life depending on where they are, and for other people it's very important. And that's why I'm saying like it's flexible. Like do whatever makes you feel most comfortable, whatever is best for your life, for your personal situation. Like don't let anyone else judge that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
But okay, so moving on.
Move
To the
on.
next topic, I kind of want to focus more on transgender and non-binary communities, because
Absolutely.
I had a lot of like interesting discussions with people about this. Like a lot of people would say like, what is they them? What is she her? What is he him? Like obviously he's a guy, obviously she's a girl. What is they? Like what like you know, like all of that
people who
confusion.
only listen and do not watch the YouTube video do not get to see your expressions. It's like priceless.
If
It's
you're
like
listening to
worth
this,
the view.
stop, go to YouTube, see this part of it, you can go back.
Yeah. You
My
do not want
facial
to miss that.
expressions. Oh my god, my facial
Okay,
expressions.
But
No,
yeah,
so
like
like
it's
a lot of
very-
people, yeah.
Talk.
A lot of people get really like they're still confused about it. They still don't know what it means. They still don't get like you know, people putting, you know, the pronouns in their bios or in Instagram or like all around social media, like you are doing, Dawn. Like you have the
Yeah.
pronouns in your Zoom and in your Instagram bio and all of that. So and I remember we had this discussion. We had this like interesting like, and I understood it more clearly. Like around like the first time I went out with you, I was like, why necessarily? Why do people, you know, put it in their bios? Like, what does it mean? And you explained it perfectly, and I thought of it the same way. So, what like talk?
I
Explain the
remember this
audience.
vividly. It was like
You have them-
post Tuma sitting in my apartment on my couch,
Yeah,
and you had just read this
yeah.
together. Good things.
Yeah, because I was really
Yeah.
interested in like getting like to actually know, because I was still confused myself and I didn't know what it meant. And it's good to educate and it's good to like have
Exactly.
this discussion, because a lot of people might not know, you know, its meaning, you know. So
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
important that you educated yourself. That's the important part. Now we're all getting educated by Dawn, except
Yes.
Cata,
Yeah.
who for some
Marga.
reason just ran away. But you can still talk, Dawn. She'll be back.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great question, and of course, I'm not trying to be on like a soapbox by any means, because I personally like identify with my biological gender that was assigned to me. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see my Zoom handle says Donovan, he, him, it. But so I don't personally like, you know, consider myself, you know, transgender or gender non-binary or anywhere else on the gender spectrum. So again, I'm not trying to be preachy, as I'm sure there are other people who have very direct experience with this, very personal experience with it, but I'll try to do my best. Basically, like what I told Tala is the whole trend of people putting in their gender bio or their gender pronouns in their Instagram bio, their Zoom handle, their WhatsApp username, that sort of a thing. It's coming from a place of support for these groups of people who are, typically speaking, gender non-binary, transgender, gender fluid, again, anywhere else in the gender spectrum. It's a trend to try to normalize it, this use of like pronouns and defining our pronouns and making it publicly known. Because there are people in this world, you know, that will look at you and say like, why do you need to have he, him pronouns on your Zoom handle, Donovan? You look like a guy. And that's fair, generally speaking, yeah, but there are many people in this community that might present, you know, use gender expression to look more masculine, but still want to be called feminine pronouns or gender non-binary pronouns, like, you know, Z and Zer, or,
Yeah.
you know, anything in between they, them. So it's a means of trying to normalize it, because before people started jumping on this trend in a sense and like adding them to their bios, before then, it was only people from this trans community, from this gender non-binary community, that had to put them on their bio. And that's very isolating in a sense of like seeing everyone else just kind of exist, but you having the only person, and it says your name and your pronouns just to make sure that everyone gets it. But it feels comforting to see that no matter how you look, even if it might seem quote unquote obvious to current standards of gender expression and gender norms, to see someone still putting their genders inside of their pronoun or inside of their bio and on their Zoom handle, it makes a community sense, like feel, I guess, and show kind of that we're all together. And it starts normalizing the use of pronouns as a conversation, you know, as a conversation starter. Hey, my name's Don, he, him pronouns, make it super quick and easy. Like it starts really normalizing this so that everyone in this community who currently are
just
kind of
respect the
outcasted by
pronouns.
current. Exactly. Yeah.
It's
like
all about
it makes these
respecting
people
the
who are
pronouns.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
these people who are kind of on
Understandable.
the outs, who might not look how they present, you know, again, according to these current standards that exist, and making them feel welcome. So that's why there's this huge push to start normalizing them. And there are many college campuses, at least in the United States, that now it's like required upon introductions to try to, you know, when you introduce yourself, like the professor will literally introduce themselves on the first day of class with their name and their pronouns, just so it's like first name basis, you know, you get to know my pronouns as well, and then we'll move on and we don't have to talk about it again.
And
I'll respect your pronouns, you respect mine. And I think that's super cool.
yeah, that is super cool. And there's like also a law. I remember in humanities class, we have a lot of I'm just not gonna talk about that. What if they're watching this? I'm just joking. No, but like I have a lot of people in my humanities class, and they were talking about this law that kind of enforces like people to, like, if you don't respect, a transgender male or female's pronouns, they, like, I don't know, they get fined or they go to jail. I don't know. It's like something on, like, with the law. And so he was like, yeah, obviously, like, I'll respect their pronouns, like, obviously that, but like, isn't it too much to like enforce, like, to force it through the law? Like, I feel like that's too much. What do you think of that? Like, because I mean, I feel like it has, like, I feel like transgender people, like, they're not being respected to the point where they have to, involve the law. That's how fucked up it is, that, like, come on, and people don't see that. They only saw, oh, they're forcing me to do this. Like, how hard it is to respect. Can't talk, I'm so frustrated. But like, yeah, what do you think of that?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that concern, obviously. And, if you don't necessarily understand or agree with this, gender, non-binary pronoun stuff, like, I guess, like, I understand why you might be aggravated by it, but these laws exist. And I'm going to come, admittedly, from a more US-based legal background. I don't like the laws and regulations in Europe and outside of Europe. So I'm still getting familiar with. So I'm most familiar with like how things work in the States, for example. But at least in the States, like, you have this really big issue when it comes to really this big gray zone, I guess, just to say, where it's defining like what comes from like disrespect to like harassment to assault and stuff like that. Like, where do you find that in between? Like, is someone purposely misidentifying you because it's just because they like want to be aggressive and be an asshole, for lack of a better term? Is that going to escalate past just purposely misgendering you towards physical or at least more verbal assault? Or is this individual just honestly making a mistake? Oops, I'm sorry, I'm super tired of him. We're pulling a 7-hour long shift. Let me correct myself. I'm sorry, I made an error twice. Like, defining that is super difficult. And I think that it's very difficult. If I had to guess with these laws and legalities, it's not like you're going to go to a restaurant and ask the server, like, Miss, could you please bring me a Pepsi? And the server is going to say, actually, I like, it's him. It's like, sir. And if you do it one more time, I don't think they're going to call the feds on you and you're going to get arrested. Like, that's not what this is standing. If I had to guess, these types of regulations are in place for people who are very clearly like just being an asshole and trying to push and potentially escalate the situation towards more than just misgendering, but towards physical and verbal assault. Like, again, I don't think like, there has to be probable cause, involved in the mix to get persecuted for something like this. And so again, this is only really going to be for those people who are out there trying to do actual harm and damage and perpetuate a very negative, hate crime, stuff like that. This is only going to be bothering those types of people. If I had to guess, it's not going to bother someone who might be like, I don't really get the whole they them thing, accidentally called my waiter him when he asked to be referred to as they them pronouns, and you move on from it. Like, I don't think you're going to get arrested. I don't believe the law is going to be that aggressive by any means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But what I also said to Tala, like, at the end of the day, when it comes to this whole conversation, because I've had some great conversations with people about the concept of they them, because I think that that's even a more hot topic than being transgender, of just going male to female or female to male, but doing this in between. People really don't understand it. It's super confusing, and people are very
the gender spectrum.
And so what I'll say on that regard, that I also said to Tala when we had this conversation, is it's confusing. Like, and it's okay to question and it's okay to look up things on the internet. But at the end of the day, everyone wants to be treated nicely. Everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone's, on this floating rock, just trying to figure out what makes them content in life, and treat others well. For the most part, that's how people exist. What I was telling Tala is, it's like, if someone asks to be called by they them pronouns and your mind is, well, I don't really understand that, I don't get it, you don't need to have complete understanding of something to have compassion to something.
Exactly.
I personally have never suffered from mental health. I'm very thankful that I have never had to suffer with severe mental health. I don't look at someone who says that they have depression and say, I don't understand get it. Yeah. Just smile. Just drink a glass of water. Have you been sleeping all right? I don't
you're not part of the Latinx community, honey. But like people in the Latinx community will tell you that. That's why like being Latino and being queer is even like harder. But that's another conversation. But, going. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, it's just, I think that again, like there are so many areas in this life that you don't have understanding in, and people just take it for what it is, like mental health, there's still some stigma out there, but generally speaking, a lot of people on this earth, even if they haven't suffered from it, are not going to look someone suffering from anxiety and depression in the eye and say, you're lying. But for some reason, there is this thing, they, them, where people just have this crave to understand it. And if they don't understand it, they refuse to acknowledge it as real. And that I have a problem with. Like, you don't have to understand to sympathize. It's you're spending so much more energy and emotion and burning so many more calories with this individual by arguing with them about their gender pronoun, when at the end of the day, if you just nod your head and say, I'm so sorry, and act as hard as you can to call them by the pronoun that they asked you to use, you're making their day so much better. You're making them feel safe. They're making them feel comfortable, and you will go on with your day unimpacted. Like, how hard is it to just be like, I don't get it. Like, it's kind of weird, kind of confusing to me, but whatever. Like, who am I to say that you're wrong? Live your best life. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what makes me mad too? Like, when people say that these people, for example, someone who decides to go by certain pronouns that people do not usually understand because they're not, he or she, and they're like, oh, they're just doing it because they want to call people's attention. It's like, God, how I just don't understand how people can think someone would want to just expose themselves and show that they're vulnerable and that they're out of the norm. Just so, I want to call everyone's attention. I want to use this pronouns just because I want people to pay attention to me. How stupid is that? Like, we know these people are the ones who, suffer from being marginalized, who suffer from hate crimes, who have their struggles just because they can't find their own identity or can't be accepted by their families. And you really think these people are here, trying to call your attention by asking you to call them by they, them? Do you really think that's the reason? Like, do you think that they think they're gonna then be loved by everyone and respected by everyone and they're gonna call everyone's attention? Well, it's quite the opposite. They will probably get hated on by this type of people who just decide that they don't understand it and do not even try to respect it, not even try to understand it, but respect it. It makes me so mad. Like, sometimes it's just all about people thinking like, oh, these people just want to call everyone's attention, and they say it about Pride Month, they say it about the parades too. Like, why do they have the need to do that? It's like, because it's who they are. They're not trying to call your attention. Just as you are who you are, and that's normalized, they want to normalize who they are as well. And I think here comes like the topic of, parades, for example, being so controversial, Pride being, proud of Pride being so controversial because people just think they're trying to call everyone's attention, and it's nothing like that. It's like celebrating who you are, just in the same way you don't normally need to celebrate who you are because you've never felt that oppression of not being able to just, be yourself. So what do you have to say about all of this, Dawn, and how do you feel about it?
I mean, I would just say, like, to put it super simply, like, one rotten egg does not make the entire batch rotten. Like, maybe one or two people here and there are doing it for attention, but that doesn't mean that everyone is doing it for attention. Like, it seems a bit harsh to accuse an entire group of God knows how many hundreds of thousands of people globally of all being attention seekers. Like, there are people who have faked pregnancies before. Are you looking at every pregnant woman saying you're faking it because a couple faked it? Like,
but that's just so many
weird parallels. Yeah, there
are
so many
isn't real.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's so many weird parallels you could draw with, like, okay, well, with that logic, then this is bad and this is an attention seeker and this is like, and it's just not fact. Again, there might be a couple of rotten eggs that are unfortunately bringing us down because they are doing it for attention. But at the end of the day, I would say it's very harsh and like illogical as well to assume that everyone is just jumping on this bandwagon for attention, not just attention, but like mostly bad attention. Like, it's a marginalized community like that. It's just, again, a bit illogical.
Yeah, like, at least for me, like, I think, like, I understand humans, we're like naturally like really curious and shit, but like, I think you will just be happier in your ignorance if they ask you to say they, and if it's that hard for you, just like call them by their name, literally. like literally, like it's easier, like you don't have to start questioning, like I have people that I know that they question everything about the community and every single aspect. They're like, but like there has to be something like biological for like why, or like there has to be trauma so that people can be gay. Like, no, just like don't think about it. It's not your life. Just be ignorant. If they ask you to do something, good. Like if they don't, well, good as well. If they want you to present you to their boyfriend, to their girlfriend, well, great for them. If they don't, well, like it's literally like just live your life and let them live theirs.
Yeah.
Exactly. I also, okay, before we end the episode, I really want to talk about this.
Go for it.
Because like it's like I feel like the controversy stems from this issue, or like not an issue, but this like situation in a way. Like it all goes back to like in a way religion, how people like, does it really bother you to hear that you're like not very much supported, from specific people because it's against, their religion, or it's a sin, or it's against nature, or all of that cases. So what do you think of that? Because I have a lot to say, but we'll speak first.
I think I like first and foremost try to like approach this conversation, with I would prefer a very sympathetic lens. Like there are many people who are like, let's use the Christian faith, for example. Like there are a lot of people who are raised in that faith, depending on where you are in the world and what sect, in a very harsh way, like not, I guess harsh is a bad word to use, but like very consuming, like if you are very devout Christian, you can spend your entire life being taught things and told things that will shape who you are as a person well into your adulthood. And if one of those things was that homosexuality is a sin, and you are very devout and you love your faith with everything you have, you're going to hate homosexuality because that's what you were told. That's what you were told and stuff like that. That's what you were raised to believe in. You worship, this God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, and these teachings that came from them, these divine beings, are saying that it's wrong, and I want to go to heaven and stuff like that. So it's wrong, and I'm being told that it's wrong. Like in that sense, I'm sympathetic. Like I feel bad that these people believe, like a lot of people believe it at their core to be the truth. And I think that that's true for people in Christianity, in Islam, in many other religions. But what it boils down to is I get frustrated. Like I'm sympathetic to a degree, and I'm sympathetic in that sense where I'm like, I would love to have a conversation with you about it. Like, let's talk about it. And as a large organized religion, as is Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all these things, their end goal is to bring people to salvation, bring people to be better people, to create a community, to find salvation in the end. All of these have the same achievement, same foundational roots. I mean, like we all are coming from different backgrounds. Would you all agree that that's really what all these faiths are trying to do? By pointing down to people and being mean, and by calling people slurs, and by actively spreading hate towards these people, you're defeating the purpose of your faith. Many of these faiths also teach to be kind to your neighbor, to be understanding, to be sympathetic. Again, you don't pick and choose. It's not fair, and you're pushing people away from what your goal is. Then I would say it's like, to me, you're doing a disservice to your own religion, by being so mean to these people. And there's not much of an excuse there in my eyes at the same time, So I struggle with it. I think it's an unfortunate thing that our world is faced with, and that's why it's going to be a little while until that starts to rework itself, because real change is not going to happen until people who are very powerful within these religions start to kind of correct these wrong preachings and these wrong teachings. But until that happens, we're going to continue hearing these sentiments, and it's going to be kind of an ugly cycle. But yeah, I mean, just a reminder, like you don't pick and choose what your faith says, plain and simple.
I think more than the like religion itself is how we interpret it. Like this is gonna be like a really bad reference, and I heard that this movie is like gay rights for like straight people, but like there's this song in one of the movies that I'm not gonna mention it, and like the song is called like Love Thy Neighbor, and they literally talks about this. They take every single thing in religion, they're like well, you have tattoos, like according to the Bible, like you cannot have tattoos. So you're saying that you're committing a small sin, but loving thy neighbor, loving in this moment, like loving people in the LGBTQ community is not as like good. Oh, your parents are divorced, that's a sin, but like nothing's gonna happen to them because you're saying like, oh no, that's a minor thing. So like you're literally putting people's like wealth, well-being, happiness like in a balance for your own good. So you can commit sins that because they're choosing to love someone else, they're choosing to live their own truth. That's a bigger sin for you. So like I think that's like maybe if someone wants to listen to a song, it's like really cheerful, it's like musical theater, but like it really put me this conversation because like whenever religion comes into it, I was never able to like respond or like have like an attitude of be like approaching to it because like I grew up in a very Catholic community. So like I was always like, well, like they told me that this is things are supposed to go. Like what am I gonna say now? But I think it's just like having like all those different understandings. So yeah.
Yeah, I had never thought of it in that way. Yeah, it is like seen as a deathless scene. Like other scenes are, are below those. But being part of the LGBT community is, a deathless scene. I had never seen it that way. Okay, Cata, I'll write that down. And Tala, you said you had like a lot to say on this topic, I guess.
Go for it,
you
girl.
want to rant a bit, so.
No, I won't rant because I actually really understood from Dawn's point of view, like genuinely, like I completely, and I really truly respect religious people because they truly develop themselves to their faith and their whole identity kind of is shaped on their religion. And so I completely respect that, but there comes a limit where like I completely respect freedom of religion, but freedom of religion is not it's against my religion, you can't do that. It's against my religion, so I can't do that. If you feel like it's truly like against your religion, you do it. Like that's between you and your own God, not between other millions of people. Like people, like it doesn't make sense. Just like be with yourself, focus on yourself, and I think God is gonna love you. Like God is not gonna give you an extra bonus pass to heaven if you go and do hate crimes to gay people. Like it doesn't make sense. Like just focus on yourself, focus on your faith between you and God, and we'll see when everything ends, or if it will, I don't know. But like I completely understood from your explanation. I actually didn't look at that way, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
I mean, it forces
I don't want to
you,
go on
absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point, Tala, like in the sense that that's one thing that I've always talked to my parents about when it came to, because I have family, unfortunately, like my direct family was very supportive of me, but I had people who was my family that was not supportive of me outside of like my direct parents and siblings. And those people I would always talk about, and they a lot of the time used faith as their justification. And I told my mom, like, what makes a Christian more right than an atheist, more right than a Muslim, more right than a Jew? Like, these are all religions that are well organized, atheism aside, of course, but like these are all belief systems well established, and these people who use their faith as their justification, these are well established faiths that are global and have millions, if not billions, of followers on this earth. Who's to say that their opinion is more right than another opinion? And I love what you're saying, Tala, in the sense that it's like, if it says it's not right for you, then you don't do it. But that doesn't mean it's not right for everyone. We're out here trying to live our best lives and be our own best selves for the most part. And there needs to be some line of sympathy. And yeah, I think that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Of course.
Yeah, I think with like thinking about sympathy is like a really great way to like end this episode. It's been really, really amazing having you here, Dawn. Do you want to say like any closing remarks or
closing
something?
Statement.
Yeah, closing statements of pressure's on. No, I would just say, like, of course, thank you guys very much for giving me a platform to speak and talk with you guys. And you're saying you're not super educated, but you guys super are educated, and it's awesome that you're dedicating an episode
we don't want to get canceled.
Right. I mean, but it's difficult. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions to learn. And as I mentioned, if I misspoke, if you disagree with something that I said in this episode, like no harm, no foul, like feel free to reach out to me, or something like that. If you have my contact information, I would love to have a further conversation. I'm not God. I don't know everything. I'm not omniscient. So if you disagree, I'm happy to continue the conversation. But at the end of the day, like I said, I would end with the phrase that I kept saying is you don't need to have complete understanding to have compassion and to have sympathy. You know, be a good person, treat others the way you wish to be treated. And I feel like if we all could just abide by those two things, then the world would be a better place. But yeah, thank you guys again for having me today. It's been fun talking to you guys. You're good friends. It's been cool.
We have
Thanks
so
to
much
Thank you,
you.
fun
Dawn,
having
for coming.
Thanks
Really,
to
really
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's
thanks for
really fun.
educating us.
Of course.
It's been really fun having you here, Dawn. If you want to carry on the conversation with us and with Dawn, you can always find us in like our social medias. Search for at the VN Talks, at the VN Podcast. You can leave some comments in YouTube or just send us a DM. We will, if you have something that you want to ask to Dawn as well, we will make it sure that you can get in contact with him. With love having you, Dawn, yearly here this episode, and everyone, happy Pride Month. And we'll see each other for episode 4. And I think that's it. Do you guys, Marga, Tala, want to see something else?
No, I just want to say bye.
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 Be yourself
next
and
episode.
love yourself and love others. Remember
Okay.
that always.
Okay,
Happy
wait, okay.
Pride.
I look bad
Happy
now, guys.
Pride.
Happy Pride, guys. Bye.